Welcome to the Rotary Club of York. We are a people of action committed to service above self and honoring the four-way test. If you haven't already done so, please take a moment to silence your cell phones. Will you please remain standing as the color guard from William Penn Jr. ROTC presents the colors of the United States of America, followed by the opening song, The Star-Spangled Banner, and Pledge of Allegiance by President-elect Glenn Miller. The invocation will be offered by Steve Feldman, and Tom Donnelly will introduce our visitors.
Arms.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order, arms, post colors. Reset, arms. Order, arms. Left face. Forward, march.
Today is a complicated day to offer an invocation. Time-honored traditions and today's headlines confront us. So bear with me. Lord, we are confronted with a great deal of good and evil in life. We remember the sacrifices of so many people for the causes that made this country great. And we are starkly reminded that some of the things that we cherish have a dark and tragic side. Even in the face of the tragedy in Texas, we must remind ourselves that there is good in this world and that there is good in humankind, even as we have witnessed the powers of violence and corruption. We must be reminded by the words of James Edward Grant in the character of a nameless soldier who simply said, I figure a man's got to believe in those things, because what you want to believe in the good things about man, about his very self, the real good things like courage and honesty and love. Amen.
Thank you, Steve. I'm pleased to have the honor of introducing our guests for today's meeting. When I call your name, please stand and remain standing. Some of our JROTC are out in the hallway, so we will introduce them as well. Remain standing until President Jackie has welcomed you. With us today, guests of the club from ROTC are Sergeant First Class Ronald Garland, Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Carliza Johnson, Cadet First Lieutenant India Teta, Cadet Sergeant Kayla Vasquez, Cadet Command Sergeant Major Kay Leanne Velasquez. Also, Lisa Vaughn, guest of President Jackie, and Barbara Shep, our speaker. Rotarians, I turn it over to Jackie Summers.
Thank you so much for being here. We are particularly honored that our honorary Rotarian and past Commissioner Susie Burns could be with us today. Welcome, good to see you. We're also thrilled that our national travelers are with us today as well. Jeff Hines and Patty Stirk are here. Great to have you with us. Usually they're over there watching us on Zoom, so it's great to have you here in the room. Welcome. I'm grateful that you're all here. I hope that you enjoy this program. I know you will. I know you'll find it very heartwarming and informative, and I hope you'll plan to join us again. Rotarians, please help me welcome our guests. The Fundraising Committee meets June 1st at 11 in the terrace room. The Membership Committee will meet on June 1st at 1:30 in the terrace room. There will be a new member orientation on June 1st at 10:30 in the Elmer Smith room. The following fellowship and networking events are scheduled. Please RSVP to past President Rob Bowen for any or all of these events. There are flyers on your table. A happy hour at Pub 28 at Box Hill on June 2nd from 5 to 7. A tour and lunch at York Water Company's Brillhart Pumping Station on June 10th from noon to 1. And we're partnering with the Lancaster Rotary Club for a joint night out at Peoples Bank Park as the Revs play the Barnstormers on June 22nd. We plan to make this an annual event, and so we'll join Lancaster for a game in 2023 at Clipper Magazine Stadium to cheer on our Revs against the Barnstormers. Yesterday, we learned of a tragic shooting, as Steve mentioned, at an elementary school in Texas. The shooting incidents in our nation have surged by more than 50% from 2020 and nearly 97% from 2017. Please join me in a moment of silence as we mourn the devastating loss of these children and grieve for their families. We cannot accept these horrific tragedies as the status quo. May we work together to find ways to repair this problem to preserve the safety and health of our nation. I am excited to share that Commissioner Muldrow and his team have an address for the Youth Engagement Community Center, which will be located at the city's former Sylvia Newcomb property at 301 East Philadelphia Street. It's adjacent to Center City on a main thoroughfare and an easy commute from any end of town. The commissioner says this is a great location and a grand property to work with as we restore the old building and add an addition, which will house the many programs and resources we're bringing online for the community, including our newest project partner, the York City Health Bureau team, who will operate a clinic at the site. He's very excited and would like to thank all of us for our interest, our help, and the buzz that we're creating. They'll continue to provide updates on their progress. And now our member moment. If you know Gordon Fryrick, and you know Gordon Fryrick, he has an incredible sense of humor and wit. He's a third-generation Yorker, born and raised in New York City until the family moved to East York in 1957. He was in the first graduating class of York Suburban. He attended the University of Miami, where he earned a degree in journalism. He planned to be a history major until he took a course on the history of the press and fell in love with journalism. It was that and the comment that his father once made about never having seen an ad in the paper for historian wanted. So Gordon wove his love for history into his longstanding weekly column in New York Sunday News, which he wrote for 40 years until his retirement just last year. Probably the article receiving the most comment was the one where he described teaching his 16-year-old daughter how to drive. Gordon has a great love for his hometown. His father owned a candy store and his uncle had a clothing store. He says that everything he learned about human nature came from his experiences working in those stores, which was instrumental when he started his career at the Lancaster New Era before moving to York to head the York Sunday News. He worked for the paper until it was sold and then accepted a position with Memorial Hospital and later created the Newton Group, working with organizations on fundraising and media relations until he retired in 2020. Gordon and his wife Ellen have been married for 54 years and have 2 children and 2 grandchildren. Taking care of his lawn is his hobby. He says it gives him time to think. As a member of Rotary for over 41 years, thoughts often cross his mind while he's mowing, like, who sends Dick Julian a card on his birthday?
Gordon Fryrick.
Or what if political ads had to be held to the Rotary 4-way test? Over the years, Rotary provided him great ideas for his column, whether it was about the program or the people he had lunch with, there was always something to write about. He was a past president of the club in 1997, 98, and the first outgoing president to kiss the incoming president, as our own Jody Keller followed him as the first woman president of our club. During his year, he ended each meeting with what he called York Pride, where he shared a piece of history about York to help remind Rotarians how proud they can be of York. And in 2016, he created the Rotary 100th Anniversary book. He's been honored with several community awards over the years, including the Chapel of the Four Chaplains Humanitarian Award. He helped to found the Four Chaplains Prayer Breakfast, and our speaker today is actually a past recipient of the Chapel of the Four Chaplains. Yesterday, he celebrated his 40th birthday. Happy birthday, Gordon, and thank you for your many years of dedicated service to Rotary and for your work in preserving the proud history of our community. And now, President-elect nominee Aaron Jacobs with the Preserve Planet Earth reminder.
Thank you, President Jackie. Rotarians, you may not know this about me, but I am a great magician. And as a great magician, I'm not only going to show you a magic trick, but I'm going to teach it to you. But every great magician needs a magician's assistant. So I'm going to need a volunteer from the audience. Anyone? Really, anyone? Joe, I'm sorry. Come on up, Joe. Let's give him a round of applause. Now, Joe, do you believe in magic?
Absolutely.
Excellent. What do you see here? An ordinary bag. What I want you to do, I want you to reach in this bag, pull the item up and show it to the audience. Okay, he's got 2 of them. Stick to the script, Joe. Try that again. Pull one out.
My hands are big apart.
Show to the audience. Now, I want you to take that. I want you to smush it against your head. Excellent. Now show it to the audience. Everybody clap for Joe. Wait a minute. I know what you're thinking. Getting this man to root through my trash and smash it against his head is a really neat trick, but it's not magic. And you're right. I'm not going to argue with you. We're going to make that bottle disappear in this magic green bag. But to do that, you have to say the magic words. York Rotary Green Bag Pickup Day next week. So say the magic words as I rub my hand over this bottle. York Rotary Green Bag Pickup Day next week. Drop it into that bag. And Shazam! It disappeared. Holy thunder, did you miss it? Shall we do it again? Joe, pull the bottle out. Show it to the audience and smash it on your head. Now everybody say the magic words. York Rotary Green Bag Pickup Day next week. Drop it in the bag. Shazam, it disappears. Unlike when you throw it into your garbage can, it actually reappears in the soil and in the water, in the air. But this magic green bag will actually make it be repurposed and reused into construction materials. So next week, York Rotary's Green Bag Pickup Day will happen in the lower parking lot here at the Country Club of York. We're asking you, if you have not already, grab one of those magic green bags. You can do this trick at home. You don't have to smash the bottle on your head and come. And so now you know how to do recycling magic. Thank you very much. Round of applause for Joe.
You have no idea how relieved I am. He didn't ask me to do that. And now Walt Tilley with the Youth Exchange update.
Thank you, President Jackie. After the 9/11 tragedy, Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers' neighborhood was asked, "What do we tell the children?" And he said, "Tell them to look for the helpers. Look for the helpers." That's our response to tragedy. We're helpers. Our club is located in Rotary District 7390, serving South Central Pennsylvania. Our district has long been recognized by Rotary International for our premier youth exchange program. When Rotary International or its youth exchange partners, Essex, have a challenge, they look to us for help. Within our district, our York Club has by far the largest and the most experienced youth exchange committee in our district. When our experience is tied to the strength of our youth exchange district, big things can happen. And now, big things are happening. Some background. When a student wants to be an exchange student, he or she applies, and this year the students were assigned to their countries in February. But February was when Russia invaded Ukraine. This past Monday, we learned that Rotary International was able to locate 4 Ukrainian students who had applied and were accepted into the Rotary International Youth Exchange Program. We have been asked to host one of them. Your heart is going exactly where mine is. How fast can we say yes? But there are some complications. For one thing, we don't have a budget for this student. We not only need to pay for their costs here, which will be about $3,200, but we need to pay the costs that the parents, the home club would normally pay, which is about another $3,500. If I were to tell you that $7,000 stood in the way of us accepting an exchange student from Ukraine, Lynn and President Jackie would have the financial commitments before they leave the meeting today. But there's more to it, because you need to know what happened last Friday. Before we learned about the students from Ukraine, Rotary International contacted our district and said,
that there were 2 students that they could not place and may not be able to go on the exchange unless we can find a placement. Other districts have been affected by COVID, and they cannot find host families and could not accept them. One is a girl from France. The other is a boy from Belgium. It will come as no surprise to you that our district accepted both students, and I assigned both students to our club. York Suburban has already confirmed their acceptance of the girl from France. Dallastown is processing the application of the boy from Belgium. But right now, I do not have host families for those students. I cannot commit to take a 3rd student from the Ukraine if I do not have the host families from the students that we're already assigned. I will also need 4 more members of the Youth Exchange Committee, 4 of you who would agree to have a criminal or child abuse background check, to be triple vaccinated against COVID, and who would take an hour-long training course on the Department of State regulations, and who will commit to about 3 hours a month to working with the Youth Exchange program. I want to help the students from Ukraine, but we have to be fair to the other students in our program too, and have adequate support for them. They too are traveling half a world away from home. And we need to act fast. I don't know if we can do it, but my heart told me that I had to ask. We had to try. So if there are 4 of you, either here or watching on video, who will help, and if the rest of you will send email messages and make telephone calls and contact your family and your friends, neighbors, co-workers who live in the Dallastown or York suburban school districts and who might be willing to serve as a host family for our students. And if I can get those host families to host from mid-August to about the first week in December, and if I have your promise that you will help us find host families for these students for the rest of the year, then I think our club will have the resources to add that 3rd student from Ukraine, and I can get to yes. So if you can contribute financially, volunteer in the committee, be a host family, or recruit a host family, please see Lynn, President Jackie, or me before the end of the meeting. I will stay as long as necessary to get the information. If you don't have time to stay, slip me your business card and I'll follow up. Or look up Lynn, President Jackie, or me in the directory and send us an email or give us a call. After the tragedy, Fred Rogers said, "Look at the helpers." I hope that we can somehow be a helper for the students from Ukraine and from France and Belgium. Thank you.
Thank you, Walt, and thank you all for your consideration in helping us take on these students in our district. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Jane Kondor to give you a Global Grants Committee update.
Together, we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change around the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. That's the vision of Rotary International, and that's why we have a Global Grants Committee. We want to build relationships with Rotarians around the world. We want to improve lives where their needs are great. We want to leverage our contributions to the Rotary Foundation to support projects in our own club. And we are a strong club, so the opportunities are great. We are doing great work. In 2020, we supported the Honduras teacher training program. In Honduras, not every child gets to go to school and not every community has trained teachers. So we have partnered with the Chula Vista Rotary Club in California, and we are providing training to teachers in Honduras. Then they are going back to their communities to teach their fellow teachers. The aim is to retain students and to implement best practices throughout the country. In 2021, we supported the Rotary Club of North York with their project in Argentina in Rio Grande area, a very poor community that had a medical clinic, but they did not have equipment. So our grant has helped create equipment that is going to assess children's neurological challenges, including Tourette's and autism. I'm so excited that our committee members here with us today and are working hard on our own project in Sandafa, Ethiopia. Why Sandafa? Well, that's because Rotarian Andy Siebold and his fellows at the Living Word Church have been going on mission trips to Sandafa for the last few years, bringing physicians and dentists to the community to provide services. Sandafa is located, well, in Ethiopia is located in Eastern Africa, and Sandafa is about 20 miles east of the capital city, Addis Ababa. It is a very poor community. The average income per year is $550. They are still experiencing high rates of AIDS and infant mortality. And while kids do go to school, there is a high dropout rate at the 9th grade level. These are our new friends in Sandafa. On the left-hand side is Dr. Freyu and his team at the medical clinic. They have been working with Living Word Church over these years, and they have proven to show their capacity to complete projects. And they are doing the legwork to identify the needs in the community. On the right-hand side are our international Rotary partners. That is the Rotary Club of Addis Ababa Club Mela, and Hennek is the leader of the club. They have agreed to be our partners, and they are superb partners because they have successfully secured Rotary Foundation grants multiple times. So they're going to be good advisors in making it a competitive grant application. And they also, Hennek is the chair of a nonprofit organization that has been doing community work for years. And so he brings a wealth of knowledge. These are the immediate challenges facing Sandafa. The population has tripled over the last decade, and less than 50% of the population has access to toilets. This is causing polluted water and diseases that are causing death in the community. If there's also an issue of privacy, okay, so we're talking about open defecation in backyards, on streets and fields, and particularly for women and girls, it's a challenge to continue this way. So we have developed with Dr. Freyu the Sandafa Bottle House Toilet Project. And I'm so glad that Erin came up here because we're going to build 32 toilets out of plastic bottles. That is how they do it there. They fill the plastic bottles with cement or mud. They are 20 times stronger than brick, and they also clean up pollution in the community. So those 32 toilets are going to be in neighborhoods, near schools, and near the medical clinic. We'll be using local labor to both build the toilets as well as maintain them. It will be accompanied by public education so that people will learn about sanitation and proper hygiene. Now, this is where we're at. I just talked to Dr. Freyu two days ago. If you haven't heard, Ethiopia's been in a civil war, and they've been heavily impacted by the Ukrainian crisis. And so he has said that he is having a hard time nailing down the budget because there's such skyrocketing inflation. So we're going to be working with him over the next few months. He says that he thinks oil prices will be doubling in the next few months in Ethiopia. So once we have that budget finalized, we'll be talking to all of you. We'll be talking to our fellows Rotarians in this district to match our gifts to this project. Then we will complete the application to the Rotary Foundation by the end of the year is our expectation so that we can start this project next year and hopefully join with you and bring you all to Sandafa sometime in the near future. Thank you so much for your gifts to the Rotary Foundation that make these projects possible.
We are so excited to be doing a global grant initiative. Again, it's been a while since we've had that opportunity. So thank you, Jane, to you and your committee for all of your efforts on behalf of this. And now we have an announcement from Ashley F. Swiler, who's going to share with us a really cool new program coming out of Educational Vocational Guidance Committee.
Good afternoon. I don't know if I can top all the projects that came ahead of me, but I'll try. So the Vocational Guidance Committee is going to host 3 fishing workshops at Kiwanis Lake this summer for kids in the city. We're going to make sure that the kids get the equipment that they need. They're going to get education on fishing. They're going to learn about the Kiwanis Lake project. They're going to learn about the Rotary that's there. And what we need from you is we need volunteers to come and help the kids learn to fish. So there is a flyer on your tables. Please look it over, get back to me if you're interested. It's super easy. You don't have to have any fishing experience. You don't need your license. We'll train you. Just come out and have a good time, and we'll give you breakfast. Thanks.
Thank you, Ashley. I do think, though, we do have a lot of fishermen in our club, so we probably will have a great many volunteers with actual experience, as well as hopefully many that don't have experience. And now it is my great privilege to welcome past President John Kleindentz to the podium to introduce our program.
Gold Star is a term derived from the American Gold Star Mothers Incorporated, who were formed in 1928 as a family response to the many lives lost during the First World War. It's a non-denominational, nonprofit, and non-political organization. Today, Gold Star is recognized as applying to all family members who have had a loved one serving in the U.S. military lost in service. Cher Kondor is a Gold Star mother who lost her son, Specialist Martin Kondor, in Iraq in 2004. He was a personal security detachment. He was on a personal security detachment guarding a colonel, just as a Sunni Shiite uprising occurred. In his service, Martin was trying to represent America as best he could by integrating and personifying our core values of courage and valor. Just a side note here, I just learned at the table that President-elect nominee Aaron's wife was a good friend of Martin, and their son is, his middle name is Martin, named in honor of Martin Kondor, which I thought was a cool sideline. After Martin's death, Cher continued that mission by creating a garden that expresses those core values. The Veterans Memorial Gold Star Healing and Peace Garden, located in Memorial Park, is created to let nature nurture the heart and soul of those who come to remember the fallen. This living monument is a gathering place for those who want to commemorate, remember the fallen, and celebrate the lives of the intrepid sons and daughters who volunteered to protect this country. This year is the 10-year anniversary of the garden. Some of you may remember that when our club did honor flights to Washington with the veterans, we met at the garden. That's where we departed. Cher will discuss how important it was for the garden to reflect the values that her son was trying to implement into his service in the Army. Fellow Rotarians, please welcome fellow Rotarian Cher Kondor.
Thank you, John. That was a lovely introduction. President Jackie, and I love Max Martin Jacobs, so I feel right at home here. But it is a pleasure to speak to you. And what I thought we would do today is I will show you a little video of the garden so you get an idea of what I'm talking about, and then we'll come back and I'll give you some details. Form follows function in the design, and then we'll show it again at the end and then take some questions. So go ahead and just roll the video. That's an overview of the Gold Star Garden. And it took many years to put it into place. It was dedicated in 2009. And so we're on our 10-year anniversary. Got to back that up a little bit. But Susan Burns is our president. She's been leading the board. Jeff Hines and Barb Shep are also here. Stand up, folks, and let everybody recognize you. They already know who you are. So John mentioned that American Gold Star Mothers were formed during World War I. So I'm going to start there. I'm wearing white because that is the color that Gold Star Mothers wear, and it is it stems from the original president. Her name was Grace Sable Darling, and her grandfather was one of the generals that was instrumental in securing the end of the Civil War at Appomattox. So her family was no stranger to the efforts of the military. When World War I started, her son wanted to join the effort and went to Canada and then over to England to join the RAF. We did not have an air force at that time. So he would send messages back frequently, and then the messages stopped. So the family did not really know what to do. And at that time, there was no real formal way to notify family members of a loss in the military. So Grace organized some other mothers who were in the same situation, and they went to Johns Hopkins and acted as nurses or nurses' aides. Because a lot of people had, well, we call it PTSD, but they called it shell shock back then. So they were actually looking for their family members. And then the organization formed into American Gold Star Mothers. And that is why we don't wear a nurse's uniform. Originally, they actually weren't nurses' uniforms, but we wear white in commemoration of those early efforts. They were told of their son's loss on Christmas Day when a shoebox arrived with his remains. So that stirred them to say, hey, we got to have a better way of communicating this kind of grave information. So that's how I got started in this. And when Martin's remains came back, among them were notebooks that had the core values. He was repeating them, writing them over and over and over. There are classes in the military, and his was a like a personal security detachment for a general who was doing a more of a liaison group to try to win the hearts and minds of the folks there in country. This was after the main incursion had taken place. So he wanted to incorporate those core values. How could he be courageous? So what was valor? How could he present as valor? Because he was representing the United States in their meetings with the group leaders. So I'll take a little step back from there. He got involved with the military in his senior year at high school. He was in Eastern, and September 9/11, everybody watched the towers come down over and over and over. So that afternoon he came home, and I was over with Aaron at Shiloh Nurseries that day. We were working on a project, and he was working in another area. So everybody remembers where they were on that day. So Martin comes home that evening and he said, we've been attacked on our sovereign soil, and I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to join the Army. I'm going to be a tanker, and would you sign for me? I said, well, really, why don't we just pull back a little bit here, see what actually happened, see what's going on there. So he went to New York once or twice or 3 times, and every time he came back, he was more determined to follow that plan. Well, in November, he turned of age and came home, slapped some papers down on that table and said, I joined the Army, I'm going to be a tanker. And he stopped short of saying, and there's nothing you can do about it. And he knew where those buts, so he did see my look and pulled back a little on that. So then he was committed to that. So he went to Fort Knox, learned how to be a tanker, was stationed at Vilsec for more advanced training. And then they said, who will volunteer to be personal security detachment for, this was General J.H. Petard, and he was one of those who raised his hand for that. So his unit went in, his tank unit went in during the main thrust, but he stayed back with this PSD and then went in to a little area near the Iranian border called Vilcek. So it's east of Baghdad. There we were, he had just gone into country in early April and had been named Soldier of the Month there. So the Army actually came out, took some pictures, and those are the photos we have because he wasn't really there that long. So that was great for us, but we didn't know. He didn't say, oh, by the way, I'm, Soldier of the Month. We found that out later. But he, in his duties, they would go and meet with people. There was one place called the Blue Mosque, and they would have what he called a goat grab, which was a dinner. They would have a goat on a spit, and everyone would go up and grab a piece and, put it on a plate. And that was their dinner. So coming out of that, there's a traffic circle, and they would go through the town back to Camp Warhorse, where there's 3 roads in and 3 roads out. So on Good Friday, there was a crossfire where later the guy said the RPGs were flying so close you could read the serial numbers on them. So they are in a Humvee. There were 3 of them that would be, including the colonel, and they would be going through the street. So they pulled Martin down to get him out of the crossfire. And he gathered himself, went up in position, started firing on the right and firing on the left. Before he left, he had 2 snake-eyed dice tattooed on the back of his neck for just this occasion. So he turned around, and there was an old car stuffed to the gills, and there were 2 people in it. So he didn't know if he should fire on them because this is his first, engagement as a new Army person there. So he fired on it, and sure enough, it exploded, and fiery trucks were going into the shops, and people were coming out going, hey, what are you breaking my windows for? And so it was very, jumbledy there. But his firing that day actually saved the entire personal security detachment. And for that action, he was given a Valor Device, which is a high honor for that action that day. Now, the interesting thing about that is that the people that knew him knew he'd gotten a Valor Device, but things, being what they were, chain of command and this and that, he did not receive the Valor Device. But the guys that came back with the body put a Valor Device on that body, even though he hadn't been granted it. So they wanted to make sure that was in there. And I'm sure he loved that. Okay, so then the Sunni Shiite uprising occurred, and they were traveling all over the place to put down the various outbreaks. And then when they got back to Bakuba, the end of April 29, he was killed by an IED in that same Humvee that he was driving. And part of these actions alerted the military that they needed to have a little more, they needed some up armor on those Humvees, and a lot of them, were made locally. So that was a good thing that came out of that. So when his personal effects came back, he had on them notebooks where he was writing the core values: duty, service, honor, repeating these over and over. And I thought, what in the heck is going on? And I realized he was trying to become these things because it was his duty to go out and represent the United States and win the hearts and minds. So I said, well, how can I carry on this mission? So I thought, well, there's music, that reflects these core values, but it's on the air and gone. Another way would be in color, the red badge of courage. So if we interpret that through a living plant, then we can come up with something that's going to work, and it's going to be healing and effective. So I thought, well, we'll have a Circle for Unity. So when you watch the video again, I want you to notice it is made in a Circle for Unity because that's how the country got together. 13 ragtag colonies decided together they would have a common goal and a common effort. And that's how we succeed, and that's how we're going to continue on these days. What's the old saying? When you live in challenging time or interesting times, well, that's where we are. So Circle for Unity is very important. And you'll notice also there's a double row of hornbeam trees that separate the garden from everyday life. So when you come here, the purpose of it is for healing and restoration. So we have the double row of hornbeam trees, and the path there is gravel. So it's very rustic. And then you come in, you travel counterclockwise there, and then you take the middle path, which is an undulating, more formal paver path, and that goes through a series of garden rooms, each planted with a certain color that reflects a core value. There will be signage there, so you will see courage. And at this point, you'll be moving clockwise. So courage room is planted all in red. And then you might think, well, what is courage? When am I courageous? Why am I not courageous in when I need to do this or that? Then orange for duty and service, yellow for integrity, remembrance. And then the path gets more rustic. There's a more Roman Appian Way type path that's laid out in the green room, and that's for healing. And there's a little spiral there. So you walk that little spiral, and with your feet planted firmly on the ground and your head thinking of those who have gone before, you may realize you are the connector between heaven and earth. So you keep going to blue for fidelity and purple for valor. But we don't want to go in circles all our life. So each of these rooms is connected to the center by a star walk. And there it's even more refined. You have a granite pathway. And in the very center is a fountain of life. We call it the honor fountain. And that is the reminder that the soul lives on. And even as it fills, there's always room for more. It fills and empties and fills and empties. It's always moving. And then on the arms of the Star Walk in black granite are the names of the Pennsylvania fallen in the global war on terror. And we have 29 folks in our immediate community that have lost their lives during this campaign. The garden does double duty and has a front wall with all the names of the York County fallen from the time of the Gold Star Mothers. So basically World War I forward. So you probably all know somebody on there. And I would like to invite everyone to come out there. It's a very quiet, very peaceful, very beautiful. And it's changing every time. You may come now, and the annuals will be fresh. You would come in September, and it'll all look different because the different plants are, rising and falling throughout the year. So now let's take another look at the garden and look for the circle, the different walks, the walk of the intrepid with the garden rooms. So we broke ground in 2009. We had our dedication in 2012. And so this is our 10-year anniversary, and we're very excited. The garden is located at 1000 Bander Avenue within Memorial Park. So it's catty corner from the ice skating rink. And we are having a 5K race that Jeff Hines puts together on Memorial Day, 7 a.m. And then the County of York will have its wreath laying ceremony at 11. So everyone's invited to come out to that, and he'll integrate that into the garden. So later in the year, we will be host to the Elks Flag Day ceremony on June 14. And then we will have a plein air artists event where we ask folks to come out and read the names of the fallen on the walls. And that would be Saturday, October 1st. And we'll do a Wreaths Across America ceremony in December. So anyone have a question there? I'd like to end with this. Community has been very generous and out giving to making this, and it could not be more proud. The city gave the land. It was parking lot. We flipped it around. It's now a paradise. So lots of hard work and energy and many donations of in kind, and just couldn't be more proud of the community and everybody in it. So anyone have a question? Yes. Who maintains the garden? Yeah, exactly. This is a living memorial. And we have the board that is very active. There is Mike Stebbins, who ran the Aaron's Shiloh Nurseries Company. The original Shiloh Nurseries Company is on the board, and he is now operating under Stebbins and Company. And so he does that. They're out there today putting annuals in. So that's a good question. And we do have volunteer days in the spring and the fall. You can go out and help clean up, and that's always welcome. Well, I do come out and spend some time in the garden. Yes. Our big events take place on Memorial Day because it is a memorial. As Jefferson said, it is meet and right that we recognize the fallen. And otherwise, folks can call if they want to use it. Mostly it's just open and there for individuals to go in. But I have gone in and there were groups of people huddled behind one of the wall having a meeting. I think they were women warriors, you know, like military people, and they were in there having a meeting. So anybody can go in at any time. There's no charge. It's free and open to the public. The city gave the land and helped to do some of the lawn mowing and maintaining. But it's a tremendous local resource, and we're going to keep good care of it, and hopefully it will continue getting better and better as the plants grow and mature. Thank you very, yes.
Are there accommodations for people who are serving now in the military that may lose their life?
Can we add names of the fallen to the wall? Yes, we can. The committee will have to, the board will have to decide, do we end after the war on terror, or if there are other engagements, can we add them? And that would be, if there is a request, we would definitely think about it. We do want to honor all the fallen, and who knows what we're going to get into now. It's remarkable that only 0.5% of our sons and daughters are in military service at this time, and arguably the needs have never been greater for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Cher, for sharing this important memory garden with us. And I look forward to visiting it. And thank you to your board too for all of your work in bringing this to fruition and keeping it going strong in the forefront of our minds. In honor of Cher's presentation today, she has signed the book plate of the book Skunk and Badger by Amy Timberlake, which we will donate to Alexander Good Elementary School on her behalf. Next week, we'll hear from Amy Jansky, Executive Director of Pappas House, along with their treasurer, Amy Anstein. They'll present what hospice is and what it includes, what are options for individuals facing end of life, resources available to assist families, and at what cost. So you'll learn about Pappas House and the impact it has on our community, as well as their plans for the organization's upcoming expansion. Please see the attached slide for our programs that we'll have next month. And I'd like to acknowledge the great work of past President Mike Summers and all of the members of the program committee for providing a wide range of excellent programs throughout our year. Thank you. Where is Mike? I don't even see. Ah, hello. Here's that dapper fellow I know. In closing, our flag does not fly because the wind moves it. It flies with the last breath of each soldier who died protecting it. Rotarians and guests, please stand as the William Penn Jr. ROTC Color Guard retires the colors.
Color guard, halt. Left face. Choose the colors. Present arms. Order arms. Left face. Forward march.
Have a great and safe Memorial Weekend. This meeting is adjourned.